Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something a bit different. It looks like a marketing speech on the surface, but actually it's more like a blueprint for how a business can survive and thrive.
Yeah, we're diving into Famous Lahthi. It's this really traditional family business operating out of just one specific lane in Bhagalpur.
Right, and that's the fascinating part, isn't it? How does a brand that's so tied to a specific place, Marwari Tola Lane, established way back in 1985,
Uh-huh.
how does it manage to skip over all the usual distribution stuff and become this like global e-commerce player?
That's the core tension, exactly. That mix, or maybe even clash, between this really deep-rooted past and the super modern digital way of doing things.
And exploring that tension is really our mission today. We want to break down their strategy into, well, the source itself highlights two key strengths: Virasat, which is their legacy,
Right, their history.
and NAYI SOCH, new thinking, basically
Yeah.
innovation.
Yeah. And, if you're out there trying to figure out how you take a product that has this long history, this legacy, and make it work, make it sustainable in the 21st century,
Yeah.
then this deep dive could be really useful. It's kind of a shortcut.
We'll look at how they really nailed emotional branding, led by SM Fardeen Ali. People call him Lucky Bhai.
And the product itself,
Mm-hmm.
the traditional Lahthi bangle.
That's the one.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. The foundation, Virasat,
Mhm.
legacy. This isn't just them saying we're old, is it? They're quite specific.
Oh, very specific. And that's strategic, I think.
Mm.
They give you the date, 1985, and the location, Marwari Tola Lane in Bhagalpur.
Right.
And those details, they matter. They immediately give the brand credibility, a sense of permanence. It's like they're saying, look, we've been right here doing this exact thing for nearly 40 years.
Makes it feel real, verifiable. And the source also mentions this wasn't just like a business decision. It was the family's sapna.
Their dream, yeah, their dream. And the whole idea was built around making a bride's special day really memorable. So it wasn't just about selling things from day one.
No, it was about embedding an emotional promise into the business itself. And, from a business psychology perspective, that's quite clever. Naming the year, naming that specific, almost tiny lane,
Uh-huh.
it grounds the brand in a physical reality, a history you can almost touch. It stops them being just another shop you buy from and forget. It turns them into a story, a narrative of continuity.
So when you buy from them, you're not just getting jewelry.
Exactly. You're buying into this multi-generational commitment, this Virasat.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Specificity is key. It's like you need the receipts to prove the legacy, not just claim it.
Absolutely. Which naturally brings us to the product itself, the Lahthi. Okay, so technically it's a bangle made of lac, which is lac, and brass.
Simple enough.
But the brand does something interesting here. They kind of dematerialize it. They insist it's much, much more than just a bangle.
Yeah, the source uses some powerful language. It's a parampara, a tradition. It's a virasat, a legacy. But the one that really stood out to me was ehsaas.
A feeling. Yes.
They're selling the feeling, the intangible outcome.
Precisely. And they justify that by really leaning into the cultural and maybe spiritual weight of the item. It's described as an aashirwad, a blessing.
A blessing, okay.
And they use this really vivid imagery, like talking about the kanak.
Oh, the sound.
Yeah, that specific jingle sound the bangles make. They describe it as the sound in a bride's hands that literally announces the start of her new life.
Wow. So the sound itself becomes symbolic of this huge life transition. That's actually quite profound.
It is. It links the physical object directly to a major life event. And then there's more. The source reminds us it also represents the garv.
The prop.
The pride, the pride specifically in Bhagalpuri art, their kala. So this deep cultural meaning, this resonance, that's the fuel for their emotional branding. They didn't have to invent the meaning. The product already carried it for centuries. Their job was maybe just to amplify it, to channel it effectively.
Okay, so we have the deep roots established, the virasat. We have the product loaded with meaning, the ehsaas, the kanak. And the story is anchored to 1985 in that specific lane. But here's the tricky part, surely. Doesn't that deep tradition, that almost sacred quality, kind of clash with the speed and, well, the demands of the modern digital world?
Ah, yes, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
If it's so special, how do you scale it? How do you sell it online without losing something?
And that is precisely the strategic pivot for Famous Lahthi. Legacy on its own is wonderful, but it doesn't pay the bills if you can't connect with customers today. This is where the second pillar comes in, NAYI SOCH. New thinking, right. But crucially, they frame innovation not as something that replaces tradition, but as the only way to actually protect it, to keep it alive and relevant.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Yeah.
The source mentions two main things, right? Connecting the art to digital India and extreme personalization.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about the personalization first because it's quite striking. They didn't just stick with the traditional designs. They went into what you might call hyper-personalization. They started actually carving. The word used is ukerte, customer names, and even photos onto the bangles.
Photos on a traditional Lahthi. Wow. Okay, but isn't there a risk there? Doesn't carving like someone's Instagram handle or photo onto this traditional, culturally significant object, doesn't that risk cheapening it, making it feel like a novelty item?
That's the tightrope walk. It's a definite risk, but it seems they manage it by framing the act of personalization itself as an act of deep meaning. It's not just slapping a name on it. They position it as embedding the customer's own story, their PR, their love, their unique memories, directly into the choodiyon, into the bangles. So the personalization itself becomes part of the emotional weight.
Ah, okay. So you're not replacing the tradition, you're adding another layer of personal meaning onto it.
Exactly. You're merging the timeless tradition from 1985 with the very modern desire for absolute individuality. It turns the bangle from just a wedding item into a deeply personal keepsake.
Which probably increases its perceived value significantly. Okay, that covers the personalization. But then there's the other massive leap. Digital India. How do they actually manage the logistics? Creating these highly customized traditional items and shipping them, as the source says, poore dunya, worldwide.
Right. That's where NAYI SOCH meets operational reality. They clearly understood that Digital India wasn't just about, putting up a simple website.
No.
It meant building a proper global supply chain for what is essentially a custom, handcrafted, somewhat fragile luxury good. We can sort of infer the steps they likely took. First, you need really good visual marketing, probably heavy on social media, to let people anywhere in the world see and feel connected to the art, the kala. Second, a seamless digital platform for ordering and, crucially, managing the customization process. It has to be easy for someone in London or New York to specify what they want carved.
Okay, marketing, ordering.
Yeah.
And the third piece must be the toughest. The actual making and shipping.
That's the operational crunch point, yes. Think about it. You're promising to carve specific names, specific photos onto these lac-based bangles. They can be delicate. Your quality control, your order fulfillment, your packaging. It all has to be absolutely top-notch to handle international shipping without things breaking or getting delayed.
So they have to transform from basically selling over the counter in Marwari Tola to delivering these bespoke, fragile artifacts reliably across continents. The innovation isn't just the carving idea, it's the whole digital and logistical backbone needed to make that happen globally.
Precisely. And that's where the two pillars work together beautifully. The deep 1985 Virasat provides the story, the emotional pull, the reason why someone would want this specific bangle.
It justifies the premium.
Absolutely. And the NAYI SOCH, the digital strategy and personalization, provides the way for them to access it, to make it their own, and for the business to monetize that emotion on a global scale. They're cleverly targeting a specific market segment.
Which is?
It seems to be that global audience, often the diaspora, but not exclusively, who still deeply value parampara tradition, but they also live in the modern world and expect modern convenience and customization.
They found a niche where cultural authenticity is actually a selling point, not a drawback.
A premium selling point, yeah. Not a barrier to entry.
So, looking at the bigger picture, the source, this speech by Lucky Bhai, it seems the ultimate goal is really to shift how the customer thinks about the purchase.
Definitely. It's moving them away from thinking I'm buying a bangle to something more like I'm investing in a story.
An investment mindset rather than a transaction mindset?
Exactly. If you piece together their whole journey, the framework becomes pretty clear. When you interact with Famous Lahthi, you're not just doing retail therapy. You're making an emotional investment. You're literally buying into a living piece of 1985 history, this Virasat.
And that's what makes them more than just a successful shop. It makes them, as the analysis suggests, an emotional brand.
Certified emotional brand.
And the ending of the speech really drives that home, doesn't it? It's almost an invitation.
It is. That line, "Aaye apni kahani ko hamari sath buni," translates roughly as, "Come weave your story with ours." It's about co-creation, participation.
Bring your story, we'll embed it in our tradition.
Right. And then the tagline just nails it, summarizing the whole model. Jahan parampara kalasi milti hai, or hachudi ek kahani keti hai.
Where tradition meets art, And every bangle tells a story.
Perfect synthesis.
It really is a compelling blueprint. We've traced it from that family sapna, that dream in a small Bhagalpur lane in 1985, all the way to becoming this global brand. And the pattern seems clear. Start with deep, specific, verifiable cultural pride, the Virasat. Then combine it with really smart, intentional modernization, the NAYI SOCH, using technology, digital reach, and that hyper-personalization.
It really demonstrates that tradition doesn't have to be static like a museum piece. It can actually be this incredibly powerful engine for market innovation if you apply that NAYI SOCH, that new thinking to it.
Okay, so let's bring it back to you, the listener. What's the practical takeaway here? We've sort of mapped out their blueprint. Let's call the Virasat-Innovation Framework, maybe the VIF. Step 1, anchor your brand in a precise cultural history.
Make it specific, verifiable.
Step 2, elevate the product beyond its physical form. Turn it into an emotional asset, that ehsaas or aashirwad.
Give it deeper meaning.
And step 3, modernize relentlessly through technology, focusing on hyper-personalized delivery and global reach where appropriate.
Right.
Marry the old soul with a new body, essentially.
So the final thought we want to leave you with, building on this, is a question. If this traditional craft, based on, basic materials like lac and brass, can use these deep emotional connections and the power of digital India to become a global, almost luxury brand, then what traditional kala, what art, what craft, what local legacy exists in your world, in your professional context, that's maybe stuck right now?
Something valuable but static.
Exactly. Something that's just waiting for its NAYI SOCH moment, waiting for someone to apply this Virasat innovation framework.
It's a powerful pattern to consider because maybe every tradition, every local legacy has a global story waiting inside it.
Food for thought. Think about how you might apply that VIF pattern.
Definitely something to mull over. Well, that's our time for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.